back to Time to Thrive. Today's we have a special guest. His name is Jasper Williams. Um, he's not just a voice, but a vessel, and he's a brother in the spirit who's walking out the call to wholeness and emotional regulation as well. Spiritual identity and dismantling toxic masculinity in the light of truth. If you've been looking for a sign, this is it. Um, Jasper, can you tell us a little bit about yourself for our listeners who are not familiar with who you are?
Sure. First of all, let me just say thank you very much for the invitation to share with your audience. You could not have picked a better topic. I believe that I'm suited for a lot of interest that I enjoy. But when it comes down to mental health, and particularly for Black men, ages 25 to 35, you've just tapped a passion. So much so until even my educational pursuit has me enrolled in my doctorate of ministry and in mental health care. So, and Black men. So I thank you very much for the invitation and for the introduction to your audience. A little bit about me: born and raised in Atlanta, University of Georgia grad. People say, "Why didn't you go to Morehouse? You have a brother and a dad did." I didn't feel like I wanted to go to Morehouse, so I went to UGA, and then went out to Dallas for my doctorate of ministry. Excuse me, for my master's of theology. Came back home. I've been in senior leadership now for 29 years or so. Um, Partly my first 10 years were pastoring with my father. So the number two man, mega church, two locations. God spoke and said, "Your assignment is up." Then he hung up the phone on me. And so that's part of the thing about God. The journey, people say enjoy the journey, not the destination. The journey with God is what brings the joy. Comes with frustration, kind of like Frankie Beverly Mays. There's some joy and pain, some sunshine and rain, but you don't forget the journey when you are doing it with God. Abraham was called God's friend. It's because
Mhm.
Abraham walked with God. And so after about 27 years of struggling with mental health, um, we transitioned out of the traditional pastorate. And just last year, in June, no, March of 2024. And I was retired for about 6 weeks. Uh, Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant found out what was going on and invited me on, and now I get to share with you.
Thank you so much for that. And I believe this conversation is important because around me, I care a lot. I have a lot. I'm raising a black son. I'm married. I have a brother. Our father grew up we grew up with our father who was incarcerated. He had schizophrenia and he was using heavy drugs. Um my husband, he um was incarcerated too at a time, and it all affects them, like emotionally and mentally. And we are believers. We are believers. We've grown up in the church, but I've always felt like there's just been something missing. So we've been researching, we've been looking for vessels to bridge the gap between mental health and spirituality. And when we talk about the black man, I feel like it's different. It's different because I'm not in his shoes and he's not in my shoes. you know? So can you tell us about your journey with mental health from a man's perspective?
Yeah, you've already knocked on so many areas of interest. When you say that you're looking for some help on both sides, I understand that. I understand so I at one point was doing this on Mondays, a mental health Monday, and so there's some episodes that are there where I'm sharing some things in my life. This summer, I'm about to amp it up for this being May of 2025. Every day, I'm trying to put a piece out on mental health. But interestingly, at the end of the semester, one of my final papers is on. I've titled it "The Intersection of Mental Health and Spirituality." Because there is that dynamic that oftentimes we don't get. I'll come back to that in a moment. But even to speak to your father, Two areas I hear: the schizophrenia, and then the drug use and the incarceration. I think that if black men start getting, no, I know if men in general, black men start getting some, if they start, if they can get some awareness and some help, some awareness and some help, and help doesn't always look like a therapist or
Mhm.
psychiatrist, though I have both. And I am unashamed about my psychiatrist. And I got two therapists, um,
Mhm.
one including marriage therapy. See, here's the thing: we've had so much as black men placed on our shoulder that
Mhm.
when it comes down to integrating into life and trying to be productive, we're stopped based on how the system is set up. And I agree with that. But based on how long we've had to just choke it and swallow it. I mean, if you go back and you look at slavery, I mean, how does a
Mhm.
man stand there and watch his family being torn away? Schizophrenia
Mhm.
happens because there's a dividing in the brain that keeps us from imploding. It is trauma based. Whenever there are drastic things that happen, the brain kicks in and it preserves the rest of itself. Well, that has to be addressed.
Mhm.
So some people can get help, like your father, others maybe that are in your family, by saying, "Hey, look, I'm struggling about this." The drugs are what's there to numb the pain. Some
Mhm.
people's drugs are hard drugs, or they numb it with hard drugs, other things that can happen, but they don't want to end up where they are. But because of their mental state and not knowing where to turn, that's where they go when prayer doesn't work.
Mhm.
Quotes for those who are not seeing me, because we know that prayer does work, but sometimes you need to pray and get up and go to work on yourself.
Yes, faith without works is dead.
Indeed.
Yes, that's so good. I love what you said because I was talking to a lady yesterday and she said, faith without works is dead. And I know for me as a woman, I do my inner work. I too have a therapist. But um when I look around at the men, um just from my experience, um in the younger community, I would say the younger community. Sometimes I feel it's an ego thing. They want to thug it out. I ain't going to talk to the therapist. I'm not going to do this. I don't need to talk to nobody. I got this because I feel like a lot of men, they find their identity in doing. And so they think, uh, being a father, going to work, or, even gang or selling drugs and stuff like that. Um, that's what I'm seeing they're finding their identity in, and they're not taking the time to rest because they think resting is some type of feminine thing. And I'm speaking from my own experience, not all black men, just the black men that I've come across to. How can we help the younger generation of men who don't have any um terminology or any tools on uh emotional regulation and therapy, and taking the time to rest and taking the time to recover? How can we help them? um how can we help them?
Yeah, so that is what my doctorate is on, what my dissertation will be on, and that is mental health comorbidities in Black men ages 25 to 35. So you're really talking my language. The end goal is to bridge the gap with the church and the block, if you understand what I'm saying. So I'm
Mhm.
talking to the guy who maybe grew up and his neighborhood name was Black. If you want if you want the weed, go to Black. If you want the powder, Black tell you who, that guy. But he's raised in a good home. His parents work. Um, maybe his mom and dad have been divorced, but the parent that remained big on education, pushing him, but black, got the street life. But he goes to college. He goes to an HBCU. And when he gets there, he goes from being black to Ray because his birth name was Raymond Jones Jr. So people call me Ray. The folk that from the block still call him black. Then he gets a job and he's being referenced to as Raymond Jones the third, his full name. He has categorized himself. There's a picture with each of those that are there. That's the guy that I want to talk to. That's who I feel like I'm called to, because along the way there's pain, 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 pain.
Yes.
And pain is what causes us to deregulate. Pain causes stress. Stress taps into what is already there epigenetically. And when the epigenetics kick along in with our family history, our family bloodline, you've got this mess. So how do we reach them? I think the most powerful thing to do is to take the church and equip the church to be a receptacle for guys to, on purpose or deliberately, funnel through into. Can you think about every person at church knows somebody, if not in their family, that they are familiar with, maybe the village, or maybe they know a couple of people on both sides, and they just said, "Hey, look, I got a program that you might be interested in." They came in, they heard whatever was recorded, whether it was me or someone else that talked their talk, and look for follow up. There's somebody that's in leadership. They'll help you. Because we want to see you win. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to be in the church. It can be anywhere. It can be with a link. But if the church is funding, fueling the opportunity, then now we're really touching those, because you can't tell me that in the South, black people have not had the black church expression. It's just in us. And so
Right.
we might be turned off sometimes by a local church or the church, which I think is for another conversation. The church can still help, and let's not take out the power of God. God loves our
Yes.
God loves these men, your husband, your father, other members in your family, men and women. But you asked me for a male perspective. God loves us, and it won't be until we actually can say what us is dealing with that we can help us. So
Yes.
if you go to my website, part of my bio says it has been, and I'm doing my video bio as well. It'll be up soon. It says that I talk about my diagnosis because what I did tell you is that I've had to have 3 sabbaticals, coming out of the pulpit once for 13 weeks. The second time, yeah, I came out for 12 weeks. And then the third time was in 2020. The second time was in 2015. Again, January of 2020, I ended up doing an inpatient treatment in Seattle, Washington, where the final piece was placed. It was bipolar, it was anxiety, it was IED, intermittent explosive disorder. And then also there was bipolar 2. The difference in
Mhm.
bipolar 1 and bipolar 2, you can see the bipolar 1. That's a Kanye. You see him going from either end to the other. Bipolar 2, the swings have just as much impact, but it's not as easily noticed. So that's how I feel that we can help. I feel like that's where the church can come in. And you start talking about thriving. That's my thing. I call myself a thrive coach. And people that have mentors, people that have someone that they're dealing with that looks like them, they're way more likely to be helped by them. I help people where they are. I mentor people, men. We do women as well. My wife and I both. This girl's had to live with me for 27 years, not knowing what's going on. I'm pointing like she's sitting over there. She's not. She's not even at home now. But she has a perspective that women who are in this thing, married to black men, daughters or sons of a black, that she has had to deal with. I mean, we have two beautiful kids. Our daughter's 25, our son is 21. We raised them with dad having a problem. And so I feel like there is hope, but we got to start trying to get to the place and the path for where the hope is on.
Yes, I love that. And I truly do agree with what you said. Representation matters. It really does. I know when as individuals, when we finally do seek therapy, that therapist or that mentor or that life coach can be the one to either welcome you in or turn you away based off of representation and how you encounter with that person. A lot of men don't that I've come across have said they don't want to go to therapy, or don't want to try therapy, or try to get help because they feel like it's worthless. They don't feel like they can relate. They don't see um them need, or they don't see them needing help and how much it affects a person. But I like what you just said about the sabbatical and how you had to, go get treatment and things like that. What I want is, I don't want to, and this is not for every case, because I don't want to categorize every diagnosis or every nervous breakdown or every panic attack as the same, but I would like for men to not wait until the bottle explodes. I don't want you to wait until you can't take anymore to go then seek help. I would like for um the men that I've come across to try to get some tools, like you said, and find help and connect with mentors and things before the symptoms start to add up, and then years go on and years go on, and you have all this pent in built in trauma. um so the next question that I have for you is, what emotions were you taught were unsafe to feel or express as a man, and how have you begun to reclaim them through healing?
Um, sure. And if you permit me, if your show platform allows for it, I got a question for you about women and how they see men, black men,
Mhm.
regarding mental health. But to answer your question, well, ask it again. I didn't want to forget that.
Yes. Sure. What emotions were you taught were unsafe to feel or express as a man, and how have you begun to reclaim them through healing?
Sure, great question. I think, I'm born in 72. I think that all men, most men, I hate to be, so overarchingly sweeping, were raised with men don't cry.
Mhm.
So watch this now. The manhood is defined by the emotion. There's a severing because as a boy, 8, 9, 5, whatever the age is, when a man who is an authority figure says to his son, men don't cry, and only a man can say that with that vibrato, with that something in there. Men don't cry. Men don't cry. So now, as a boy, I'm seeing dad, this authority figure. It could be dad, it can be an uncle, it could be a granddaddy, but that authority figure telling me that what I am feeling is attached to my manhood, telling me I must not be on the way to being like you. I think that's where it starts. When things like that happen, that sever our being, that makes us challenge or look at or opinionate how God feels about us, when God is the one that made us with the emotional component package. So you're telling me, by you telling me don't cry, what you're doing is telling me, don't honor the part of God that he created me to have.
Wow. That's good. And I've never thought about it that way, just being transparent. Can you repeat that? You said don't,
Repeat what part?
the last part that you said.
Okay, if I can, let me go back and see. So for a man, a young man, to be told men don't cry is to separate a piece of their manhood from their emotion. And it is
Mhm.
at that emotional place that God created and put in men. So to say, don't cry is for you to ignore a part or piece of how God has made you.
That's
Usually the,
good. I feel like somebody need to write that down.
usually the revelation comes out best the first time than it does on the second time. So just hit rewind, hit that skip back 10 seconds.
Right. That's good. And I think the question that you asked me is the way we view men's mental health from my perspective.
Yes.
So I am a I am a uh, mental health advocate. I'm in school to be a therapist. So when I think about mental health, I try not to put other people in a box from the way I view it because I'm more of an emotional person. So I express through crying, I express through journaling, I express through worship. I like to communicate. When I think about a man dealing with mental health, I see a cry for help. When I see frustration and I see so much anger on how you getting treated at your job. Um, I see a lot of men drinking. I see a lot of men smoking. I see a lot of men playing the game to avoid the emotions on how they're dealing with. And to me, it looks like a cry for help because it looks like um, they're filling that void. We all have our vices. We're human. But for the men that I see, I feel like they don't have the tools. So I see it for help. That's how I view it. But I'm at the point to where I want to be a helpmate. I don't want it to be like, well, you need to do this and you need to do this. You need to go to therapy. You need to get right with God. You need to do this. You need to do this because I see how they're trying. You know what I'm saying? And I think about I don't want to be a parental figure, you know, because I have a 3-year-old son. And I'm teaching him how to navigate his emotions at this age because I've seen what it can do. I think they like to bottle it in. They like to bottle it in, and I don't know if it's because they don't feel comfortable. How can I be that comfortable, safe place for this black man? How can we as women be a safe place for these black men to thrive?
So you've brought up a mouthful. That's what I was sitting over here jotting down. I heard somebody say that their job as a father, they were saying that their job as a father was to keep their sons out of prison and their daughters off a pole.
Mm.
If that's your only effort and your only goal, that is pretty much underselling what it means to raise a child. Because if I had been in touch with my feelings sooner. So here's another component. Let me make sure this will lead. Yes, I think this will. Here's another component. My parents divorced when I was 13, I believe. And my father would still come and visit us. And I remember one time dad said, when I'm not here, you the man of the house. Well, my father was preached an awful lot. Some years he'd be gone 46, 47 weeks out of the year. Um, so for the 2, 3 hours that I saw him, he was the man of the house. The rest of the
Mhm.
165 hours, 166 hours of the week, there's 168 hours in a week. I was the father. How does a 12, 13-year-old boy have the emotional component to be the man of the house. He doesn't. There's 7
Mhm.
stages in emotional growth, and you need each stage to be completed in order for the next stage or the coming stages to be successful. So you got stage 1, stage 2, stage 4, stage 5, stage 6. I left out 3 because it is at that stage that all of the emotional components of prior years and preparation for future years begin to come together and concretize. So, what it looked like for me, I did become the man of the house. I was my brother's tutor. I was his play football with him. You talking about the birds and the bees. I taught him about how to drive a car. I made sure he had taken his bath. I mean, I was doing what a father did. It wasn't until later that I realized I was being the man of the house when dad wasn't home. I make sure mama was all right. If there was anything that went bump in the middle of the night, I go get it. I mean, I could be the one walking down the hall with the shotgun because dad said, you're the man of the house. What it did was it matured me in what was attractive or eye catching for my wife. When we met, I think I was 22. Yep, I was
Okay.
22, 20, 22, 23, excuse me, when we met. And I said, she goes, you're not like typical guys. I said, what do you mean? She says, you have business about yourself. You know what you want to do. You have a good work ethic. You're not typical. I, I don't know. What I didn't realize though is that that separation, that emotional component that was not formulated, got covered up and smushed and compromised. That looked like stability on the outside, but it wasn't on the inside. I had learned to stuff my feelings. We're going to come back around to the loop.
Mhm.
We'll finish this to your question. So, growing up, whenever, growing through marriage, we got past the first year. It was a honeymoon year, third year for sure. My wife is like, that's not what I'm saying. So, we said, you said A plus B. I'm telling you the answer is 3.
Yeah.
Being Jasper, that stayed there for a while and would show itself in stressful moments. Then we got therapists, a different set of therapists, 7, 8, 9 years into our marriage. And my therapist showed me that my head had been severed from my heart.
Mhm.
Draw a string from your head to your heart. And it was 18 inches. It had been clipped. So I was thinking, and you probably know this, why does my husband, whatever your husband's name, why does he always have solutions? Why is he always, if I give him a problem, he gonna give him a solution? Men are like that. You give us a problem, we're gonna give you a solution. And you all want us to sit in our feminine energy and share and explain. And that's not wrong. But when our hearts can't feel your heart, then to you all, we become fill in the blank. Whatever word it looks like, we can become jerks, we can become whatever it is. But men need some help because who knows how much that man has had to sever his heart in places because he was told men don't cry. I had shut my
Mhm.
heart down. I had learned to become cerebral. And I was good
Mhm.
at solving problems, but I wasn't good embracing my wife, being empathetic towards her, trying to understand. And that only came by a mentor, AKA a therapist. But even more importantly, me willing to do the work.
Amen. Praise God.
Well,
I love that.
let me give you this tip, maybe to punctuate this. I saw this in my son. Um, but when I get home, I just, hey, look, just let me go chill out for a minute. You know, I just go be by myself. My wife is real chill. She's real cool. I sit on the couch and, whatever, or I'll go upstairs in the studio or whatever I'm gonna do, sit outside on the deck. Give me about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. You have me. All yours. What you want to do? What you want to talk about? My son hurt my wife's feelings. So he came home one day. It was last summer. He was, was out of, he's on home on college break. Came home, my wife, what? Good to see you. He has a car, so she didn't have to get him. How was your day? It was fine. Fine? Well, what made it fine? Why wasn't it great? Um, it was just all right. It was good. Now my son is very gregarious. He's very loving. He loves his mother. He loves people. Good man. So he takes off the next day and just runs upstairs. Hey, Quad, how are you? Pup, 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 pup. He runs upstairs. I said, baby, he's just being a man. I said, leave him alone. See, he's got to get some time to himself. He just needs to refresh. It's not because he don't love you. It's not because he doesn't like you. Just he's being a man. Leave him alone.
That's good.
That can help resolve a lot of the tension between a husband and wife, a man and a woman, by just giving the brother some time. Me, 20 minutes, I'm good. Quad, 35, 40 minutes, he's good. Sometimes your man might need an hour and a half. It shouldn't be every
Mm.
night, but once a week, I go and kick it with some boys. Me and my fellows, we're gonna go out and hang out. I look forward to that on that night of the week. But every day, I'm gonna need some time just to relax. Don't give me the problems. Okay, I know we got to do that. We'll talk about that later, but just give me some time. Now, one more thing that you said. I'm sorry, I didn't hijack your show. Uh, one of the thing it is that you said that when we don't cry, you feel like it is a cry for help. You're exactly right.
Mhm.
You're exactly right. This is an all-inclusive statement. But when a man cannot express his emotions, when a man has his emotional component has been shut down, that is the big ugly cry
Mhm.
because God has made us to feel that. And when we can't feel it, the pain is so loud. Nothing we try works unless we're
That's
hanging with people who are in as much pain as we are. Misery loves company. So then we start fueling the behavior. I'm talking about as a man that needs a cry for a man that doesn't cry is a cry for a man. We start fueling, hey, you like strip clubs? I found a new one over here. You know, here's a strand of weed. I think I said it right. I don't smoke weed, but I've heard that they have strands. You get the good stuff, you get that gas, and you get that pressure. That's Atlanta. so, so my point is when you find somebody that has you're saying vices, it's toxic. And you come back
yeah.
home really worse than you did before you left because you're an expression of freedom. Your pain subsided. Now the buzz is gone from whatever it is that y'all were pumping up pain medicine with, whatever your choice was. The buzz is gone. Now I'm looking at you again and I wake up and do this again.
Yeah. And I see that a lot in my father because he had schizophrenia. He was trying to self-medicate and he was self-medicating on the wrong drugs, which led him to a decision where he's in prison for life. He went to prison when I was in seventh grade, and I have not seen him since. Um, so
So
I
sad.
just really want our community as women, we love our men. We want to see our men rise, and we don't want to. We don't want to be controlling or nagging or the curling wife, as they would say, the biblical term. We want to be the helpmate. I know I do. I want to be the helpmate, and I want to learn how to be more encouraging. And you nailed it right on the head. So thank you for that. Um, how um did you regulate your emotions now in a way that happens to both honor your humanity and your divinity.
Yeah, so I've mentioned a story earlier about my head and my heart being disconnected. You can't do inner healing or do the work, as I guess you could say, as a synonym, a synonymous phrase, without touching the full you.
Mm,
I mean, when I say that is, I can't just do, I don't know, pick it. I cannot rehab from drug addiction until I figure out what was fueling the drug addiction, and there was a feeling of what was fueling me to make the decision to do drugs. You can't do it. So when it comes down to emotions, and we first honor the fact that God has made us as emotional beings, that it is part of his design.
Jesus wept.
Men are designed to have emotions. So if that is the given, then how can I unpack what I'm not feeling? How can I get back in touch with what
Yeah.
God's design for me was? Whenever I'm coaching somebody, emotions typically are one of the things that pop up the most, but it's called an emotional wheel. And there,
Hmm.
it depends, 5 to 6 major emotions, but that's at the core. I wish I knew we were going to talk about this. I would have made it available. That's at the core. In the center are the major emotions. Around
Hmm.
it are primary emotion. Well, primary, secondary, tertiary. Sometimes we can't say, you know what, I'm angry. That is a core emotion.
Hmm.
That is a primary emotion. Sometimes I can't say that, but as I look around the outside of these, where there might be 50 of them, I am, man, I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that she didn't even see what I was trying to do. When you start following the disappointment to the secondary emotions, it leads,
Let me see where that
disappointment
will is.
leads to anger. So,
Mm.
tool for men and women to have, but we talking about men. What a tool for a man to have to be able to say, all right, how do I figure out what the issue is? Start looking around on the outside and start tracing it back, and you will be surprised. Hmm. Here's a real life moment. And I'm so glad I've been equipped with understanding this. My mom is suffering from dementia
Mm.
and starting to get worse. Um, and there was a time, probably about a year and a half or so ago, I'd give her a task to do. She was doing it at first, 2 or 3 things, Mama, you do such, because I'm helping her need to get this done. And then she started forgetting. Mama, write it down. Write it down. Okay, I got it written down. She was successful for a while. Then she started forgetting. Mama, Mama, I'm trying to help you such and such. And I got so angry at her.
Mhm.
Sorry, son. I'm sorry. It's my mama. I've always had a great relationship with my mother. And one day it hit me. Why am I always getting mad at mama now? It's not her. And it hit me. I was angry that I couldn't
Yeah.
do anything more to help her.
That's good.
I wasn't angry at my mother. I was angry that my limits, my capacity wouldn't let me help her more.
Hmm.
So from that, I got reset and my heart got engaged even more in my assisting my mother since then, before then. But now I can go, that ain't her. I get emotional thinking
That
about it.
awareness.
Like that's mom, and I'm helpless. I got her in a good place that she can live. Great building, super nice. Staff is nice. So now watch the fact that I know that
Mhm.
on my emotional wheel, now I can process it as being sad.
Mhm.
But before I was able to process and understood what was going on, I was angry. Two emotions, same situation, but how there is the process of it is what is so very important. That's where the pay dirt is. When you can begin to learn how to process that one tool. If somebody Googled emotional wheel, you start giving a little time with that, it helps you, it really helps with your self-awareness.
That's good. And I like to use the emotional wheel too, because I've found, like you said, there's layers to everything. It's almost like reminds me of an onion. You start peeling back, then you start peeling back, and then you kind of get to the root. Um, I I really like that. And how do you balance being a protector, a provider, um, and a mentor of your life without being consumed by pressure or ego?
Oh, by being consumed by pressure or what?
Ego.
All right, so are you using the word ego in the typical sense of me feeling superior than you?
No. Um, so I so for example, I say ego because I know like a lot of men won't admit they need help because of their ego.
Okay. I think we're saying the same thing because that means that I'm superior because I don't need help more than you when we both are hurting. Like your pain is worse than mine. I can take mine. It's this crazy competition that's there. How do I keep balance with my ego? I learned that ego just doesn't work. Arrogance, you know, people lie and call it confidence. All that stuff, it really just doesn't, it doesn't help anything. It,
Mm,
it keeps you, gives you a false reality of safety, but it takes some being popped on your butt to realize this is not helping. So I've tried to walk in a place of humility, understanding, empathy, so that I am able to be taught. Now, I ain't gonna let everybody speaking in my life, but from places that are solid, that are okay, I want to learn. It can be somebody younger than me, somebody older than
yeah.
me. Their age doesn't qualify them, it's what they're saying. All right. So there is the ego side, the stress side. Well, the ego and the stress side is my head is going faster than my mouth. So to balance myself and to try to stabilize that part helps me compete or rather tamp down the ego side. The stress side is a whole different story. One of my final papers is the theology of pastoral ministry and leadership. And one of those components is the author begins to talk about the importance of a pastor and his emotional mental health being regulated. I was
Mhm.
very, very upfront to say, I struggle here. I mean, think about it. I went from an established church that pre COVID doing very well, plenty of money in the coffers. We make it through COVID. And now suddenly we come back from COVID. People don't come back. There's a swack at your ego. Then you start being comforted because you're learning that this is happening all over. So even your
Yeah.
buddies and people ministries that you know at a distance, people aren't coming back as much as they were. Online audience is growing. So I'm going from a place of stability to not being able to afford the lease after being there for 8 years, 2 consecutive 4-year lease terms. I can't afford the lease. To make an arrangement in in Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, we found a business. They were there on the weekdays. We were there on Sundays, paying whatever the amount was, doesn't really matter, to owning a building that we ended up having to put a $160,000 so dollars because the building was built in 57 and they hadn't changed the paint till 57. All of this stress, getting kids ready for college, getting kids ready for their master,
Mhm.
being for all of this stuff, being tapped ourselves, stress, pressure, stress, pressure, stress. But it was because of what I learned in 2020 was I able to keep my footing. That 30 days, I pray and take prescriptions. That 30 days that I was away, I really leaned in and and I got some principle and I kept my therapist. I could have gone
Yes.
left during that time,
Mm.
but recognizing that you're under stress and saying, look, this is pretty heavy. There's a great start and a great power right there. And so for stress, back to what I was saying now, I just got to realize, all right, if I don't take time for myself, I won't. Nobody else is responsible. So we got home a little late last night, 11:15, 11:30, whatever. My wife says, I'm going to take my shower. That's okay. I'm going outside on the deck. She looks at me. So I'm not a good handyman. I just try. So I want to on our gazebo. Um, there's a mosquito net around it, and then there's a
Mhm.
second layer that in the wintertime you can stay warm. And because we raised it up 21 inches, it's 21 inches short. So I had someone cut the bottom parameters. I'm getting somewhere with this. So it would make up the difference. So the material would sag. In the summer, I can sit out there and I don't get worried bothered by mosquitoes. In the winter, I can close it up, got my heat. She looks at me. I said, yeah, I'm going. She goes, okay. I have to be tactile. When I get worked up, I have to do something with my hands. For
Yeah.
me, my therapist helped me see that I go to Starbucks and I'll get a slice of their loaf, banana nut loaf, and I don't eat it. I sift my way around and I find the walnuts that are there in it. That's what I like. It's the sifting, it's the finding, looking for some kind of texture. I've learned if I go do something with my hands. I was going outside to go do something with my hands. I'm saying that to say when you learn yourself, then you can start learning what the stress wants and what it doesn't need. For a
Yeah,
while,
that's good.
my stress relief was eating. I love sweets. So you start to eat your emotions. We've heard that phrase. But there are ways
Yeah.
for you not to have to stay where you are, to get some relief when you need it, but you have to be self-aware enough to know. And I give credit. Well, first I give praise to God and credit to two amazing therapists, uh, Stephen and Aaron.
Amen. I love that. And as we start to wrap up, I do have just one question. What would you speak into the men listening, especially the one who's on edge, tired, and unsure if healing is possible for him?
Well, if you're ready to do the work, I'll help you. I will help you. If you go to my website, it's there, jasperwilliams3.com. There's a place where we can schedule 15 minutes or so. Sit aside. I hear where you are. I determine if I feel like I can help you. I am not a licensed therapist. I am a coach that's got
Okay.
27 years of trying to figure out this thing called life, from moving from surviving to thriving. Sit down 15 minutes. If I'm not your cup of tea, we can stop at 8 minutes if you want into the 15 minutes. But you want a black man that loves God, that has matriculated through manhood, understanding those silent cries and pains. Maybe I'm the one. You will need
Amen.
some help, whether it's me or somebody else, or a lockdown unit, if not death. Bruh, you cannot make, where's the camera? Bruh, you cannot make it by yourself. You can't do it. Stop.
Amen.
Get yourself some help. Not just a book talking about I'm spiritual. No, you need something built on truth and something or somebody, probably more somebody, that's going to hold you accountable to what you said you were going to do, to what you said you needed help for,
Mhm.
what you said. Balls in your court. I believe, as I've talked to men, also prick some ladies as well. You too might need a coach, a mentor. If that's the case, man, my wife is a bad mamma jamma. She has survived this thing and she pulls from her deep storage of how to make it. And she's the one that understands me the most.
Amen.
Might be able to help too. And of course we do therapy together. We coach together when needed.
That's beautiful. Well, this conversation has truly been healing. If you're a man listening right now, I would like you to know that you are seen. You are not weak because you feel, and you are not broken because you cry. God has designed all of us with a soul, not just strength. And in this season, He's calling you back to your original blueprint, a man who knows how to lead, but also how to love, starting with himself. If anything today resonated with you today, I ask that you breathe, pray. Please reach out to Jasper. And remember, healing is not a detour from your purpose, it's a doorway into it. This is the time to thrive, where we believe that vulnerability is power and healing is holy, and masculinity can be rooted in mercy. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and keep thriving.